Good morning. It's Ginny and Tim at DS Tech.
Hello.
What is our title? Compliance theater won't cut it anymore.
Yep.
If you pretend, it won't work. Check the box or get burned, and we're going to talk about this. So what boxes do you have to check, right?
Yep.
I mean, and it can get really confusing. So make sure you reach out if you need help with compliance in your industry. And it's getting worse.
Yep.
The lists are getting longer, right? So let's dive into that. What you got?
So, and from a security standpoint, I like it because it's like you say it's getting worse. I think it's getting better because now it's forcing people to kind of start doing these things that they should have been doing in the first place, but now it's kind of getting teeth is the best
now they're
way.
Getting called out.
That's just, so basically we're talking about compliance, and what is compliance is basically a set of rules that you should follow as a business in your industry. So think of like if you're a bank, there's certain rules you should follow because you need to protect people's information
and
a little bit more than someone who's like a flower shop down the road. No offense if you own a flower shop, they're great, but you have some client information, not as much as a bank. Same thing with healthcare. Depending on the industry you're in, there could be certain levels of compliance that you need to meet.
Doesn't the flower shop have like a retail compliance?
They probably do. They probably have the
for
PCI. For the credit card, if they're taking payments, you're going to have that. And usually a lot of times they'll have like a third party. Either way, but yes, you're going to have some compliance depending on what you're doing in your business, different areas. So sometimes the rules can get kind of confusing. Think of like a tech lawyer. It's written with like subsection C of this and that, and they have lots of references. So
as
a lame person who's not living in security every day, you look at it and your brain just wants to shut off. At least that's what my brain does when I look at real laws too, because I don't understand it. So it's like it's really hard to do. And so having a tech partner help you through it will help, whether it's your MSP like DS Tech, if you have an IT guru that's your in-house, they can work with us, partner, all that kind of stuff. And the biggest thing is that they're going to finally start creating like teeth where they're going to follow up, and you could be potentially liable if you're not following your compliance as much anymore. So let's be real, for years compliance felt like checking boxes to avoid fines or audits. But in 2025, those check boxes are now going to be directly tied to your cyber insurance, your legal liability, and even your ability to potentially win contracts. So whether it's HIPAA, CMMC, or even your general business liability policy, the expectations have gone up, and there are also some consequences. So the first one we'll talk about HIPAA. So in 2025, HIPAA is starting to get teeth. So stricter requirements for risk assessments and proof of remediation. A lot of times HIPAA before there was these like almost optional, I forgot the term for it, but they had certain things, requirements where you didn't have to do it, but they were like recommended. Well, all of those recommended things are now going to be required. So hopefully you were just like, you know what, I'll take the recommendation. I'll do it anyway because it made sense. And hopefully you're ahead of the game. But if you were just doing the minimum to get by, you might have a little bit of an uplift. They're also going to have mandated MFA for all systems that touch PHI, so your patient health information and all that kind of stuff. Expanded definition of security incident, including third-party breaches. So just because the idea is that you have this other company who's doing something for you, you can't just say, well, it's not my problem because we pawned it off on them and you're just throwing the liability to them. If that third party happened to get from your systems records, now they're saying that you might potentially be liable for some of your third parties. So you want to really vet your third parties in that incident. And yes, the enforcement fines have gone way up. So if your clinic is still storing patient files on a local drive with no backups and one password for the whole office, you're not just non-compliant, you're a breach waiting to happen. So it's very common in nurses and doctors, they'll have the same password for all the stations because you're running in and out of offices and all this kind of stuff. And you really need to level up to that next step where everyone either has a badge, unique thing to sign in and all that kind of stuff and really get to those requirements. Another area where it's happening is in manufacturing, and if you're working with the DoD contracting space, and that's called CMMC, Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification. So for any business touching the US DoD supply chain, CMMC Level 2 is effectively being required. And so again, that's going to have a lot of documented policies. And so it's a lot of procedure too, where people look at this and they're like, well, we just install the software or do all this, we're going to be compliant, right? And a lot of it isn't just like software based. That's only depending on the framework. It might only be 30% or 40% of it. A lot of compliance is how your business procedures and policies are written. If someone's going to turn in a laptop because they're not working here anymore, they get a new laptop. For example, with CMMC, there has to be a data destruction workflow. For the laptop, this almost has to be tracked like a vote. There has to be a chain of custody on that hard drive where the hard drive went from employee A to employee B. Employee B took the hard drive, wiped it to DoD standards. Now the hard drive is removed and we're physically destroying it or repurposing it. There's a certain methodology you have to do, and that's just for removing of the hard drives or turning in your laptops. And that's not something you can just install software and get done. It's a procedure that you have to get implemented and train all your staff to do. And a lot of these compliance stuff is a lot about procedures and policies and workflows. So it's it can be kind of a heavy uplift, but again, work with an MSP, work with a provider to help you navigate that waters, and we'll get you there. We can help craft the policies and then and help you enforce it and then audit and verify it's being followed. So that's where it talks about, documented policies, regular audits, continuous monitoring, and yes, third-party assessments. So again, if you're still relying on self-attestations, like self-certifying, things like that, a lot of that's not going to go through forward. In CMMC, you're actually going to need a third party to come in and do your scan of you and all that kind of stuff. And then the other area where it's going to affect every business, not just DoD space or healthcare, is in your cyber insurance renewals. Every small business has some sort of cyber liability policy probably, and if not, you should probably think about getting one. But just talk about money. So because cyber insurance renewals are where all of this is starting to become actually real for most people. Providers are asking harder questions. Do you have EDR on all your endpoints? Is MFA enabled across all admin and remote access accounts? Are backups tested? Are they air-gapped? Can you prove patching was done in 30 days or less? And if you say yes and you can't prove it, your claim could be denied. We've seen horror stories already where someone says, yep, we have MFA implemented everywhere, and MFA wasn't turned on a service account that had a weak password that somehow managed to have over-permissioned, and that's the account that got breached, and they got the data through the service account. And when it finally came to the forensics aspect of paying out, the insurance is going to say, well, look, you said you had MFA implemented here, but MFA was not implemented here, and we didn't write that note it, so they're going to deny your claim. It's like saying, like, I'm in perfect health, and then it comes out, you're an alcoholic and you're a chain smoker. It's like, well, you can't lie in the form. They're not going to pay you out if you're doing that. So it's one of those things that they're doing that. So, so again, it's getting a little bit harder. We can help navigate you if an insurance renewal. You want help with that, we can help you navigate that. But again, it's not just checking the box to say, yes, we have it. You really need to make sure you're doing it and it's in place because of the ramifications and the payout. So again, this talks about compliance. It's not just documentation, it's execution. So here's the hard truth. Too many organizations treat compliance kind of like a paperwork exercise. You just check the box. I got to get my thing in a year. I got to check the boxes and send it in again. It's just like an automated thing. They're not actually following up on it. But realistically, in 2025, the auditors, the insurers really, and yes, even the threat actors are all calling on that bluff. And so it's not just enough to say that you do MFA. You need to prove it's enforced. Not enough to just say we do daily backups. When's the last time you took your backup and you actually loaded it up, it booted up, and you tried to log into it on top of it to make sure that the backup was working in the cloud? As DS Tech, we do tests on all of our backups constantly with Teams, or we'll turn them on, we'll log in to make sure it's working constantly as a test, because you don't want to say, oh, we have backups, and the little monitor thing says the backup was good and green, but you never actually turned it on to verify it, because automated systems, what will happen is the actual disaster will happen. You haven't tested your backup in 6 months, and now all of a sudden you have a problem with your backup, and it's the worst time possible. So constantly test your systems, check for MFA on the new staff. The new staff all have MFA enrolled as well. Do you have MFA automatically happening through conditional access? There's lots of things we can do to make sure that we're not hitting and missing these gaps.
I wonder if this training will be required eventually.
Yeah, usually they have some sort of security awareness training. I think it's common on most forums to say, do you do a yearly security awareness training with staff? It can be as simple as a 15, 20-minute video. Realistically, I encourage you to go a little bit deeper with your staff, on what that is, or even quarterly remind them, because the idea of a yearly security awareness training, stuff is happening so much every year. Stuff from the beginning of the year and the end of the year is already training. I actually recommend just do it twice a year or even quarterly. Just have them go through a quick 30-minute, 60-minute refresher. It really depends on you and your business, but you can't ever have constantly repeating it over and over again. Will get it ingrained a little bit better than just like a one-time training. They're like, oh, I'll go to the training, I got free pizza and pop, and they just don't absorb anything and wait till next year. Whereas it's kind of part of your culture and you're talking about it more quarterly or more quickly. It's not just like a one and done thing, and they may listen to it more. So yeah, all this can feel overwhelming, especially for small, mid-sized businesses. But again, that's where your MSP comes in. A good MSP won't just sell you the tools. We're going to actually help you understand these frameworks, explain why. We're going to help you deploy and manage the tech. So for like your EDR, your MFA, we can get right in there, look at the accounts, be like, look, these accounts don't have it. Is there a reason why? Maybe if they don't have MFA, we can do other things to make it restricted where this account can only log in from a certain location. So that way, yeah, it doesn't have MFA, but a threat actor over somewhere in the other country can't use it because they're not at the location. There's other, call it compensating controls we can put in place to help secure that. Running tabletop exercises, doing security awareness training. And, you do the security awareness training for staff, but do you do the disaster training with owners where it's like, hey, if your phone systems went down, how do you operate? What about if your computer systems go down? What if there is a tornado? What if all of your systems go down? What do you do? How long when your systems are down do you start enacting this emergency response? Is it 1 hour of downtime? Is it 6? Is it 12? It depends on the business, but like these are questions we will ask owners and try to come up with solutions so you can brainstorm it and hopefully get through the situation if it ever does happen quicker and more efficiently. Maintain documentation for audits and insurance, and that's something that MSP can help you do because a lot of the stuff is like proving you have MFA, so you have to export the logs of users, showing that it's enforced and all that kind of stuff. And that stuff we can easily automate for you if you're a client of ours and help you get all that information. And more importantly, they help you actually do the thing. You're not just like checking the box, but you're actually going to do it and actually follow the policy and procedure, and you make it part of your, your work culture and things like that. So you don't just need to be a compliant expert; you need to be the right partner who is. And again, DS Tech, we do this all the time in compliance and stuff. And so please reach out if you're feeling any worry. Usually the sooner the better too, because as the renewals, you're like, oh, my insurance it's done in the 31st and it's the 29th today or whatever it is.
It's a little bit late.
It can be kind of stressful. So let us know ahead of time before you make it a lot less stressful. And so kind of, at the end of the thing, whether you're a clinic, a manufacturer, a 10-person startup, this is the year to stop just kind of faking compliance with the theater of checking the boxes and actually like living it,
I can totally see myself doing that with all that paperwork that I think in my head, oh, this is such BS. I'm just going to fill it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I mean, we all do that.
Especially if you're an owner and you're trying to do like 5 aspects of the business and you just like the insurance renewal comes across your desk and it's like, here we go again. Just, it's very common. I make fun of it, but it's the truth. It's just the reality of it. And so take the time to do it properly, verify it, vet it. And that way, if you ever did need to do a claim, hopefully you don't, but you'll actually get your payout that you need.
Breathe a sigh of relief. Just call DS Tech.
Yep, there you go.
Or drop your comments and visit our website. Okay. Subscribe to our newsletter too, so I can keep you updated on this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So make it a great day. Trust no one. We'll see you next time.